is hard.
This is, I mean, we've been clocked in for over 5 hours. And
I know it,
We've got a corner done?
We got the corner done. This is OSB, Tony.
Is this
This
OSB?
is 7/16. This is what Granite Ridge uses on their wall sheathing. As a wall, great product. But we got to, there's certain ways to use these hammers.
I missed the episode last week. What did Luke talk about?
I don't know. He talked about your wrist. He talked about your elbow and your shoulder, head and shoulders, knees and toes.
Head and shoulders, knees and toes?
Also, we're supposed to shake hands. Let's keep
Let's
going
do this
here.
again.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
So, Elizabeth, they said we need to come finish this and tape the window. I think we could use painter's tape, right? I mean,
Sure, I didn't read the directions, but I'm sure that'll work.
That's what I'm used to. And
Yeah, we'll just...
Okay, girls and guys, what are you doing? This is a mess over here.
No.
Hi.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Guys, I thought I taught you how to use a hammer last week.
My DVR broke.
Well, let me see that thing. I'll give you a quick refresher
Thank
again.
you.
So remember, when you're using a hammer, if you grab up by the head and you use your wrist, that's going to give you a little bit more finesse, a little bit more control over that head. But you guys are doing framing, so you want a little bit more power because you're driving longer nails in.
Bigger hammer?
Yeah, bigger hammer. Grab it by the base.
Okay.
And then use your elbow to drive those nails in. And then you actually grab it like you're shaking a hand with somebody at that base. So you're nice and relaxed when you're swinging that hammer. But guys, this is how we used to do things. Tony, let me see that.
Absolutely.
That power. Yeah. Now, guys, we're using pneumatic nailers.
Whoa!
That would have been nice a few hours ago.
So now
Nice
that corner is
job.
wrapped up.
They've got a mess over here. So would you kind of explain that? Guys, I think you haven't been on a lunch break for 15 minutes. Let's you and I go to lunch break.
what's wrong?
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
use
about the
painter.
3 hours.
What do you have this here? This is painter's tape, guys.
Yeah.
This won't work for exterior.
It's tape.
See the
Right.
difference between the two tapes here?
Well,
So
Sure.
here, I'm going to give you that back. We're going to need that in a few months. But
Okay.
this is actually what we call exterior tape or flashing tape or window tape. And you can see it's got like a nice metallic look to it because it's very water resistant. And this is probably one of the most crucial points to framing a house is making sure that we're managing the water. So you can see behind me the window here is actually taped in a very unique fashion, and they use tape similar to this. And you can't see it at the top of that window there, but there's actually a piece of tape behind the white house wrap.
Okay.
And that's because you want to think of the water always shedding to the outside. So if there's any water that gets behind that siding, it hits the house wrap, runs down the house wrap, it'll hit the window, and the window has a built-in flashing, a built-in nailing flange, and then it'll kick it to the outside. And then we tape everything going down at like a shingle, so it overlaps all the way down the surface of the window. Very important.
Sure, and then they used a roller.
Yep. They use
To seal it.
They use a roller to make sure there's a nice bond between the tape and the house wrap. So guys, I'm going to leave this tape with you. Now be careful, it's extremely sticky. And
we got
you
this.
guys make
Okay.
sure you use the roller and tape
Yeah.
it just like this one. If you do that all the way around the house, we'll be in good shape with the water.
Okay.
So, did he say the shiny side or the
I'm going to get
sticky?
my phone and call the framer.
Oh, perfect.
Let's do that.
Okay, yeah, I like that idea. You know, we can call.
Hey, my fries. Lunch breaks, guys. Hey, Lonnie, last week we were talking about wall framing. Did you tell me that they're thinking about changing the widths between the studs?
There's some builders that have gone to 24 inches on center. We're still at 16 inches on center. We like that a lot better.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. So, hey,
What are you guys doing? Are you still on break? We got to start
It's been
the
a long
show.
time. The studio called. We have to start.
we are. Guys, too long a lunch break. Lonnie, would you go ahead and open up for us?
Sure. Hey, welcome to Between the Studs. I'm Lonnie Norris, and this is part of the Granite Ridge Builders team, including Tony Ranke, our president. We build custom homes. We enjoy what we're doing in northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, and also parts of southern Michigan. Today, the subject is framing. We like framing, right, Tony?
We really do. And as we've been discussing for the last 3 weeks, we're talking about the 3 most important structures of a new home. Number 1, concrete, the foundation. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Last week, we talked about framing and even a little bit of roofing. We've had so many responses. People would like us to expand a little bit more about the wall framing. So that's going to be today's subject. Now, does anybody have any stats that we'd like to share with the audience?
I think I have one. In about a 2,000 square foot house, did you know there's 400 studs?
Wow.
Wow. I have one too. This is oriented strand board, or OSB. often called waffle board or flake board. It's a major component. We use about 200 sheets in a home. And this is popular. It's used 66% of the time over plywood, and I think Lonnie knows the history on it.
Just a little bit. It goes back to 1963. It was actually discovered in California by this Arden Elmendorf. And as Elizabeth said, the OSB stands for Oriented Strand Board. Before that, they used kind of a particle board, kind of picture a mulch that they kind of glued together, and they kind of glued it all in one direction. It wasn't very strong. It wasn't very strong. Then they came out with a way of crossing it over, and a lot of layers crossed over. In fact, this stuff starts out about 8 to 10 inches thick, and then they compress it down. It's wood chips, 95% wood chips, and then it's 5% wax and resin. And we've been using it. When it first came out, I thought, I wouldn't put that on my house. Now we put it on our walls as a sheathing and also on our roofs.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Now, Lonnie, you said that 60% of the houses use this, but there's still another 40% out there that we'll talk about plywood. And plywood really came after World War II era, and they said it was such a big hit, they were expecting it to be 7 billion sheets of plywood used 21 years after that. They actually hit that 7 billion in 5 years.
Very popular.
And by the time they got to 1973, they were actually doing 16 billion sheets every single year around the U.S. And that is about the same time when the OSB came out to start talking about that market share.
And a lot of people don't know, plywood is simply veneers. There's a bunch of veneers. Sometimes it's like 3-ply, you've heard that. You've heard 5-ply, depends on the thickness.
Right.
So it's really a very good product. Either one can be used. Now, last week we talked about hammers and nails. So think about how many nails we use in hammers. You didn't have time to give your demonstration on a hammer and the nomenclature of a hammer. Do you have time to do it now?
Yeah, we talked about all the different types of hammers, but we didn't talk about what makes up a hammer. And typically people think of two parts, the handle and the head, but there's actually more to it than that. You have the handle, but that consists of a grip, the handle, then you get up to the head here, and you have your face, your neck, your cheeks, and your claw, and then wood hammers will actually have a part of the top that's called the eye, and that's what makes that positive connection between the head and the handle. And then, like Lonnie's there, that's a steel one, that's actually forged one piece, so that's missing the eye on the top.
Sure. It's fascinating, because this is one of the most important things besides your pneumatic gun.
Yes.
Okay, we have so much to talk about. Today's going to be talking just about wall framing, the structure, the sheathing, so stay tuned. You're going to really enjoy this. All right, guys,
Let's go.
Parts.
Can I have a front?
Is it time for the painter's tape yet?
Yeah. And again, today we're extending the topic of framing. It's so important. And today we're on the outside of a home. We're going to talk about after the studs. We've got the sheathing, 7/16 OSB. And then we're going to have to protect those studs and the OSB with house wrap.
You're exactly right, Lonnie. And house wrap is actually meant to be a water barrier. If you look at any siding up close, you guys walk up to your siding at home, you look up underneath it, you'll see tiny little holes. That's because the siding manufacturers know that in a really hard driving rain, that water is going to get behind that siding. And then that's where the house wrap comes into play. That water hits the house wrap and it just wicks
Sheds
it
down.
straight
Okay.
down. Exactly. And then it also serves a dual purpose as far as air infiltration.
There's also seen these a lot on the different houses, and this is that blue foam board that goes around.
Right, so this would essentially replace the OSB. Now we still have to put OSB or some extra bracing in corners and around windows for structural purposes, because obviously foam itself is not going to be very structurally sound, but it doesn't then need the house wrap on the outside because moisture
More
won't
resistant.
affect.
Okay,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Look, so we've talked about the house wrap, we've talked about the OSB. Now, a big thing is insulation values and R values of homes. Is there a difference in this?
Yeah, so the blue board is actually going to give you an additional R value as opposed to the OSB. So it's going to give you about an extra R3. And if you do, you can actually do a thicker than this. This is a 1/2 inch. You can do 1 inch. You can do 2 inch. We did that on our next step house.
You're right. You're
Yep.
right.
So you can actually add a lot of extra R value. And the other thing that it does is it completely eliminates what we call thermal bridges. Wood is a thermal bridge. So where there's a stud behind this OSB, that
Heat can transfer?
Heat can
Okay.
transfer either way, in or out. With the blue board, it stops it at that point.
Okay.
It is a big debate whether we're talking about the blue foam board or we're talking about OSB or the thickness of the foam board. If you would like more information on this, we are more than happy to sit down and kind of go over all the different options that are best for you. Just give us a call at 260-490-1417.
Yeah, remember, you can't talk about house wrap without music. Right, Tony?
House
Let's try
wrap.
it. Luke, when it comes to framing, we are asked all the time, maybe debated all the time about what's best, a 2x4 wall or a 2x6 wall as far as the outside walls are concerned. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, you're holding the 2x4, I'm holding the 2x6, so you can see there's quite a bit difference there, and obviously 2 inches. One of the things that get brought up is the insulation value that we're able to put in between there. It used to be a bigger issue because we could only get R13 at 2x4s. Now we can get a high density R15, whereas a 2x6 we can only get an R19. So about 20% more, but if you do the math, that's about a 15 to 20 year payback on that.
Yeah, it doesn't pay back very quickly. And then structurally speaking, I know that sometimes Granite Ridge does use a 2x6 in areas where there's a lot of mass or windows, for example.
Yeah, like maybe you're on a lake and you have a lot of glass on that lake side, then we will actually switch to a 2x6 because obviously there's a lot of less studs in that wall at that point. And then you'll see them sometimes on the interior too. Sometimes we have a lot of load bearing down on one spot, maybe a second story bearing down on that first floor, and we will do a 2x6, or maybe it's an area like a laundry room where we have a lot of mechanicals or water lines going through there, or we need that extra insulation because there's a water line on the exterior wall, we will switch to a 2x6 wall.
I did have one client one time I couldn't debate. They wanted a place for their cats to set in the windows. And so in the 2x6 wall, you had a wider sill. The kitty cat could sit in the window and look out. And
There was
I don't know why this was thrown at me, but please make note that this is R15.
This is that R15 bat, and this is a high density 2x6. You can only get an R19, so that way there's only about 20% difference, which is about a 15 to 20 year payback. Another big consideration is obviously a 2x6 wall is thicker than a 2x4, so you lose some square footage.
Yeah, 20, 30, maybe 40 square feet in a home. That's equivalent to maybe a bath or even a closet. You want to lose a closet?
Well, Lonnie, we've talked about sheathing, house wrap, covering that with vinyl siding, brick, or stone. But when it comes to the exterior structure, there's a lot of voids in that structure, voids such as windows, doors, and garage doors. So
You're right.
what do we do with those?
Yeah, first of all, the idea of window comes from the word wind hole, where there was a hole in the wall which allowed wind to go in and out. Today we use windows to cover up those holes, and we're standing here in front of a triple window, we would call it. It's actually 3 windows that have been molded together, and it makes one unit. We talked about how the fact that there's actually a header above this window, that's part of the framing that actually supports the weight on each side of the window. So let's talk now about, we've set the window in, let's talk about some of these parts and pieces around this window.
Now this particular window is on the front of the home or the roadside. So what we've done to dress it up is we've done a 6-inch trim. This is an engineered trim around this window. You can do different sizes, but with the scale of this home, we've done a 6-inch. You may do smaller if it's a smaller house, or if it's bigger, something different.
And it could be mitered up here, or it could be a butt joint like we see, or even a dog ear where we extend it a little bit to get to that style, the craftsman style or the traditional style, what the customer's looking for.
Right, and it's important. You may have a certain style in your home, so you do it on the outside as well, like the dog ear or the butt joint inside.
And this particular product is very, very popular. It's actually a composite board. It's actually a combination of a resin and wood chips that have been pressed together, and it really holds up well compared to maybe vinyl, which is not as durable, and also aluminum, which dents so easily.
And we love low maintenance, so this is a product that you do have to paint, but not very often. You could go 5 or 7 years before you have to paint
Correct,
this.
that's a big reason why we use it. Also, you see over here, this is what we call J channel. And the vinyl siding, which is a cladding, actually butts itself up underneath this J channel. It's returned there. You can't see that end butt joint.
And when you're on the back of the home or the sides of the home, your windows might look a little bit different. So a lot of times you're not going to do this engineered wood around those windows. It is more decorative. So you may see a window with just the J channel.
So Elizabeth, we're standing here and we mentioned the vinyl siding, and this has kind of got a bevel look to it.
Or a Dutch lap look.
Okay, but we have other options, right?
We do. On the front of the home, a lot of times people will have brick or a manufactured stone. It may be the entire front or just bits and pieces of the front for accents. Now when we have that and we have a window, we have different applications that would go around that window.
Okay, and I think today what's very popular is this plinth row idea, and we're running those at 3 foot or 4 foot or 5 foot. Explain that.
Yeah, so for example, you may have a manufactured stone and you don't want to take it all the way from the floor to the ceiling,
Right.
so you may take it up 4 feet.
Okay.
Now we have to cap it in some
Over the
way
top,
between the vinyl siding and the manufactured stone. So we actually have a ledge stone that would run across
Okay.
or a stone sill.
And if it were brick?
If it were brick, we could do some angled brick.
Angled brick, okay.
Angled brick across that, or we could take it all the way to the ceiling. Now when it comes to your window, there's different ways to trim that out than with brick. You may have a half row of brick around
way
your
around
window.
the window,
Yeah,
okay.
or a double half row. And then with stone, a lot of times people like to take this wood trim around the window and then have their stone.
And I suppose if we put shutters on the front of this house, we'd probably eliminate this trim board?
Typically you would like to, because it looks a little funny if your shutter is on the outside of
Okay, a
this
little wider.
trim. So
Wouldn't have to, but it's typically we would.
typically, yes.
A lot of options. Give us a call. We'd like to talk to you about all the many things we can put on your new home.
So as you can see, when it comes to wall framing, there's more to it than just the protection or holding up the roof.
Or the studs. You're right.
Well, vinyl siding is another way to protect your home from the elements, whether it be rain, snow, wind. And when it comes to this product, we have long spans and short spans. And one thing you're always going to have are seams.
Right. And you have to remember that vinyl siding in our seasons is going to move. It's going to move back and forth. And so you have to overlap it. There's no way to butt joint it. You have to overlap it. And here's a good example of vinyl that's been overlapped. And there is a good way to do it and a maybe not so good way to do it.
And I know you have a stud tip on that.
Right. When you hang your siding, think about presentation. Like if I'm going up to somebody's front porch, I don't want to see the seam if I don't have to. Right now, if you're walking around this way, you're going to see that seam. There is a way by just reversing it to hang it, and you're not going to see that seam. It's going to disappear. Let's take a look at it. So again, we've hung the vinyl siding so that it can move, and this is a great example. If I'm looking at the vinyl siding from that side, you can't see the seam.
Now, Lonnie, we're standing in front of a window, which is a great example of just having the vinyl J-channel around the window. Well, today we've talked about the construction of the home when it comes to wall sheathing and house wrap, and now we're to the stage where we're going to talk about what we cover that with. The decorative items or the pretty items. So there's 3 items that can go on the outside of the home.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the vinyl right now, and we'll get to brick and stone in a little bit here.
Vinyl is kind of exciting because they've come out with a lot of new colors, and you can really change the look of your home with vinyl siding, and it's low maintenance.
You're right, and so in this area, we're going to have a lot of vinyl usually on the house. Primarily, it's what's going to be on the sides and back of your home, as well as a good portion of the front. There's a lot of different styles to take a look at and thicknesses. So what we're showing here, this is what we call a Dutch lap profile, where it has a little bit of a ridge in the middle. This is a nice look, especially over long spanses. The other one that Elizabeth's holding here is called a bevel. This is going to be something that is a little more traditional and a good timeless look as well. All of them, their performance is the same, the cost is the same, so it really is a difference in people's preferences.
I like all the colors they've come out with, Kayla, so you can really mix it up in your neighborhood. You may see a lot of one color, and you can mix it up with greens and blues and all sorts of fun colors.
You can, and almost every year, every other year, they come out with more, which is very exciting for a decorator's world, that we can keep playing around with a lot of different colors. So one other thing to think about when you're looking at the colors of siding is the thickness. That's very important. So the standard colors are going to come as a 0.042 inches. That's what we have as a standard. There are other ones out there that are even thinner, but what Granite Ridge starts with is an 0.042 is what we call it. But the darker colors, because they're dark and to keep up with that lifetime warranty, typically they have to make them a little bit thicker. And so they're going to do a 0.044 thickness. That way it doesn't bow or fade near as easily when they go a little bit thicker. And within those then you also have different profiles that you can go with. So like Elizabeth shows here, her beveled one is a 4 inches, a 4-inch wide plank. This Dutch lap is going to be a 5. So you have thickness, you have width differences in your siding planks too.
And of course we have these 2 profiles, but you can get a little more decorative with vinyl siding. So we could do a shake accents, and that is vinyl. We could do a board and batten that is also a vinyl product, and that's a good way maybe to incorporate a pop of color if you don't want it on the whole house.
Absolutely. There's going to be a lot of different ones too that you might have seen before, is like the scalloped look. That's going to really be what defines the style of your home. Whether you have vinyl, shake, board and batten, or the scallop, that's going to be a very good way to tell what style you're going for.
Or you can just stick with something like this, the clapboard. This mimics the old woods.
So now we're going to talk about the second most popular way to face your house, and that's going to be the brick.
Brick is really a classic look and has always been popular and will always be popular.
So what I really love about the brick is, again, just like the vinyl siding, how many different styles it can come in and different sizes and shapes and colors. So what I have here is what they're going to call a modular or traditional size, usually about 3 inches by 8 inches, somewhere around that. But what's going to be popular now is going to be the larger bricks, where you're oversized, or they're called queens and kings. Those are going to be a little bit more for some probably larger homes, and even just a larger pattern makes it look a little bit more contemporary, modern look.
Now, Kayla, when you look at the brick, everybody focuses on the color of the brick. But at our office, we have a famous wall. It's our brick wall, and we show different colors of mortar within the same brick. So what your eye sees is actually 20% of the mortar. So this is an important decision. If you drive by a house and you love the brick and you choose the same brick, but you don't choose that mortar, it's going to look different.
Absolutely, that's very right. And speaking of color, what I find the most interesting with brick is that they are all stained bricks when they're made. So you can have a red body on what's going to be popular now are the brown bricks and white bricks and gray bricks. But a lot of times when you see them on a pallet out at the house, they're all going to have a red body. A lot of people wonder if that's right or wrong, but when the face is the right color, it's all going to be good when it goes inside the house. And what I really love is that when somebody wants to change the brick on their home, since all of these are stained in the manufacturing facility, they can be stained on your house. You can make a red house look white again. You can make a white house look brown. It is something that is going to be a stain that will still last a lifetime, because that's exactly how they do it in the factory.
Well, and one of our favorite things about brick is the decorative things you can do. Herringbone patterns, brick corbel arches. We've done these on a lot of parade homes and it's been very popular.
You definitely don't want to overlook the small details when it comes to brick, because that makes the biggest difference. Your coin corners, your soldier coursing, like you're saying, that's the stuff that you want to pay attention to when you select brick on your home.
So as you can see, this isn't all about the wall and the structure and the construction of that. This is about how you finish it, the finishing touches, and how you decorate that home.
Well, I think it's time. Let's go take a look at the third most popular option.
Well, Kayla, our third most popular item to put on the front of the home is manufactured stone, and we sure have a lot of fun with this product.
We do, you're absolutely right. So this is a way to very much customize your home with all sorts of different styles and colors.
Now, the fun thing about this is it is a manufactured product. So I know you can get this color in different styles of stone. There's a lot of things you can do with it.
It's very true. So the one thing with brick is that what you see is typically what you get. Maybe it's a couple size options, but what you have with stone is a lot more flexible. And like you said, manufactured stone. So they have a lot of different options that you can do colors, styles, mix and match, and that is what really helps the architecture of your home.
Now, Kayla, when we watch them install this, it's pretty impressive. This is very labor intensive. I think a lot of people guess it comes out in a big sheet, but it doesn't. It's like a puzzle. They have to individually put these pieces on the house.
Yes, they're definitely not just installers, they're artists to make this look right, and they do such a wonderful job. So what we have here that I'm holding is what is called a quarry cut style. They're a little bit thinner. So this is something where if you have a minimal amount of stone, if you just have it on some pedestals or a plinth row, which a plinth row is just something that it doesn't go the full height of the wall, a little bit shorter, we do 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot plinth rows. This is a popular item for those areas just because the pattern isn't so large and overbearing. Another one that's popular is what's called a pro stack, which is a no mortar look. You can get those on the outside of the house, which looks really nice too. And then others that you see behind here, that's going to be more of your cobblestone or ledge stones and things like that. And that lends itself to more of a rustic or traditional look and what's good on larger areas of the homes.
As you can see, there's more to it than just the walls. If you'd like more information about the structure or about these nice elements like the manufactured stone, brick, vinyl, please give us a call.
So like you said, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about where we put this, why we put this on the home, and what we use it for, give us a call.
That was better than the clothes. Good job.
You think so?
Nailed it.
All right, let's go.
I'm so excited to be standing in front of one of these beautiful job sites here in Brownstone Manor. This new exclusive Granite Ridge community is located off of Old Lima Road, just north of Shove. There are a multitude of different build sites available for your custom home today. We've got beautiful wooded backdrops like you'll see the one behind me. We've also got pond lots and quite a few different cul-de-sacs out here. This community qualifies for USDA financing and our special zero down loan options. As a resident of Huntertown, I couldn't be more excited about this project, and I'm just a stone's throw away to be able to come out with you, walk these job sites, and talk to you about custom building. Call me at 260-444-1112 to walk your next lot today.
Goodness. Well, at the beginning of the show, I mentioned that there was 400 studs in a 2,000 square foot house. Now, how many nails are we going to be getting into?
Well, typically they say 10 nails for every square foot. So we're in about a 2,000 square foot house, that's 2,000 nails.
Wow, that's a lot. Now, what I'm holding here, this looks like it could be kind of fun. Can you teach us how to use these or what they
Yeah,
are?
so what we have here is, this is a framing pneumatic nailer. You have a 16 gauge, which is typically used for like nailing base on. You have a crown stapler, but they have a bunch of different pneumatic nailers out there. They came about in about 1950, and the way that it works is this is actually an air hose that's connected to an air compressor. That air compressor is holding air at a very high pressure, and then every time I pull this trigger, it releases a little bit of that pressure, which then drives a piston into a nail and then drives the nail in. You can either use air or you can use gas, or even they have ones now that are just purely electric that run on batteries and so forth, but it has completely changed the construction industry with these pneumatic nailers.
Or you can use what we all have, which is the old-fashioned muscle.
Right.
Hey, this has been a really, really fun show. We got to close. Kayla, would you close for us?
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do so well, please give us a call, visit our website, or even better yet, come in. We'd love to meet you and talk about your framing and sheathing needs.
Guys, why do you always give me sheathing?
Wait,
You
like
know
what?
I
Oh, that's she. I'm sorry. Oh, well, that reminds me of what happened last month.
You've done this to me too.
It's hot though, I bet that felt good.
Right?
Hey, my fries.
This is a good lunch break.
It's a very good
We've been
lunch
talking
break.
a lot.
What are you guys doing?
Wait, give
been
me
gone a
a
long
chance to
time.
talk. We're going to talk about this first.
Give us a.
I thought you guys
He's
were-
going to talk about the studs and then come in.
Thank you. I get to smack Lonnie again.
Good lunch break.
The kitty cat can sit in the window and look out.
There was a...
I don't know why this was thrown at me, but please make note that this is R15, which is a dense wall installation that we can put now in a 2x4 wall. 2x6 wall, we can go to R19, so what is that, 20?
We didn't talk about the square footage either, so we'll drop that in there.
You
Yeah.
want to start over?
I don't know.
I don't know why this was
The reason I
thrown
did it
at
for
me.
Blooper, I just figured. It's like,
Whoops. Yeah, 20, 30, maybe 40 square feet in a home. That's equivalent to maybe a bath or even a closet. You want to lose a closet?
Man, you sounded mean
that was
when
such
you
a-
said that.
Such a threat. Do you want to lose a closet?
Hey, you.
I kind of like it.
You want to lose a closet?
You may do smaller if it's a smaller house, or if it's
Right.
bigger, something different.
And it could be mitered up here. Oh, jeez. Let me stay right there.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and no, did I miss all of that stuff?
No, you did
no,
it right.
you got it.
Oh my
Go ahead,
gosh.
stay- start-
I'm
Start
sorry.
right there. Just start there.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about who we are, oh my gosh, how am I messing this up so much?
You aren't.
Because he
You
threw
got
you
it.
off when he
I know.
had you do it.
You're good.
Or why we
Yeah.
do what we
He
do.
threw you off with
Holy
stuff.
cow.
You're totally getting it.